Picture stepping into your garden and seeing nothing but strong, healthy plants. Clean leaves, sturdy stems, no holes, no sticky residue, no swarms of aphids, no caterpillars slowly destroying everything you've worked for. No sprays, no chemicals, no constant fight against pests. Just natural balance. It might sound unrealistic, but it's not. Because some plants don't just grow, they defend. They release scents, oils, and natural compounds that insects simply can't tolerate. Others attract beneficial predators that hunt pests for you. Some even confuse insects so effectively that they can't locate your crops at all. This is companion planting in its most effective form, working with nature's own defense mechanisms instead of against them. In this guide, you'll discover 10 companion plants that actively repel garden pests. And when you position them correctly, your garden shifts from being an open buffet into a protected stronghold. Let's begin with one of the most powerful defenders. 1. Marigolds. Marigolds are like quiet specialists in the world of companion planting. On the surface, they appear to be simple, cheerful flowers, but in reality, they function as a multi-layered pest control system, working both below the soil and above it. Start with what happens underground. Marigold roots release natural chemical compounds that suppress root knot nematodes, tiny soil-dwelling pests that attack plant roots. These nematodes cause swelling, weaken plants, and reduce overall productivity. You won't easily see them, but their damage can be devastating. Marigolds act like a natural soil treatment, gradually reducing their population over time. Now consider what happens above ground. Marigolds emit a strong, musky scent that many insects find unpleasant. This aroma interferes with pests that rely on smell to locate plants. Aphids, whiteflies, beetles, leafhoppers, and certain caterpillars are far less likely to settle in areas where marigolds are present in large numbers. French marigolds are particularly effective. They produce stronger root compounds for nematode control and have a more intense fragrance that helps mask the scent of nearby crops. But marigolds don't just repel pests, they also attract their natural enemies. Their bright blooms draw in beneficial insects such as ladybugs, lacewings, parasitic wasps, hoverflies. This means marigolds help establish a natural predator system within your garden. There's another benefit that often goes unnoticed. Animals like rabbits and deer tend to avoid areas with strong marigold presence due to the scent, offering an extra layer of protection for delicate plants. To get the most out of marigolds, plant them along the edges of garden beds. Place them between rows of crops. Use them near tomatoes, peppers, and beans. Position them at entry points to your garden. Think of marigolds as a full defense system, protecting from below the soil, above ground, and around the perimeter at the same time. 2. Lavender. Lavender acts like a natural barrier made entirely of scent. Its soft purple flowers and silvery foliage produce powerful aromatic oils, especially linalool and linaloyl acetate. While these compounds are calming and pleasant to us, they are overwhelming and repellent to many insects. Lavender helps deter moths, fleas, flies, mosquitoes, certain beetles. Moths are especially affected. They rely on scent to locate safe places to lay eggs, and lavender's strong fragrance disrupts that process. That's why dried lavender has been used for centuries to protect clothing and fabrics. In the garden, it works the same way, discouraging moths that would otherwise lay eggs on leafy crops. Mosquitoes and flies also avoid areas where lavender is abundant. Its scent masks the signals that usually attract them, making it ideal for spaces where people spend time. But lavender doesn't only repel, it also attracts beneficial insects. Its long-lasting blooms draw in bees, butterflies, hoverflies. An increase in pollinators means improved yields for crops like tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, berries, and fruit trees. So while lavender keeps pests away, it also enhances productivity. Lavender thrives in conditions that challenge many other plants: full sunlight, dry soil, low fertility. This makes it perfect for borders, edges of garden beds, and areas that don't receive much water. It functions like a scented boundary, decorative, drought-tolerant, and protective. Best placement includes near patios and doorways to reduce mosquitoes, along garden borders, close to crops that depend on pollination, Around seating areas, lavender transforms protection into something that feels effortless, a natural defense that also brings beauty and fragrance into your space. 3. Basil. Basil may appear soft, aromatic, and purely culinary at first glance. But in the garden, it functions more like a natural defensive barrier. Its leaves produce potent essential oils, including compounds such as eugenol, linalool, and citronellol. These are what give basil its characteristic sweet and slightly spicy scent. For us, that fragrance feels fresh and inviting. For insects, it creates sensory disruption. Many garden pests rely heavily on scent to navigate their environment. They don't visually locate a tomato plant from a distance. They detect it through smell. Basil interferes with that system. When planted alongside crops like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, or lettuce, basil releases aromatic compounds into the surrounding air that confuse insects' sensory mechanisms. It's similar to interference on a signal. Pests sense something is there, but they can't clearly identify or locate it. This effect is particularly useful against aphids, whiteflies, thrips, mosquitoes. Flies, tomato hornworms. Tomato hornworms, for instance, begin as moth larvae. The adult moths depend on scent to find tomato plants where they can lay eggs. When basil is nearby, its strong aroma interferes with that process, making it harder for the moths to recognize suitable host plants. Basil also provides benefits both above and below the surface. Its strong scent discourages insects from laying eggs, while its root system remains non-invasive, meaning it doesn't compete aggressively with neighboring crops. This makes it an excellent companion plant. There's also an additional advantage: pollinator attraction. When basil is allowed to flower, it draws in bees and hoverflies. Hoverfly larvae are natural predators of aphids, which means basil helps support a population of beneficial insects that actively reduce pest numbers. In other words, it not only repels pests, but also strengthens your garden's natural defense network. To make basil effective as a pest deterrent, placement is key. A single plant won't have a strong enough impact. Instead, plant basil in groups. Place it between tomato plants, line the edges of garden beds with it, grow it in containers near vulnerable crops. The more concentrated the scent, the more effective the disruption. Basil doesn't just enhance your cooking, it actively protects some of the most valuable plants in your garden. 4. Mint. Mint doesn't gently discourage pests, it overwhelms them. The menthol-rich oils found in mint leaves act almost like a chemical warning signal to many insects. While humans perceive the scent as refreshing and cool, pests experience it as overpowering and disorienting. Their sensory systems become overloaded, prompting them to avoid the area altogether. This makes mint especially effective against ants, aphids, flea beetles, cabbage moths, mosquitoes, flies. Ants in particular depend heavily on scent trails to navigate and communicate. Mint disrupts these trails, effectively breaking their communication system. When ants can no longer follow their chemical paths, they abandon the area. And since ants often farm aphids for their honeydew, disrupting ant activity also weakens aphid populations. Cabbage moths are another important target. These insects lay eggs on crops like cabbage, kale, and broccoli. Mint's strong scent masks the natural odor of these plants, that making them harder for moths to locate and reducing egg-laying activity. But mint's role doesn't stop at repelling pests. It also attracts beneficial insects. When it blooms, mint draws in hoverflies, parasitic wasps, predatory beetles. These beneficial insects feed on aphids, caterpillars, and other soft-bodied pests. So mint works on two fronts. It repels harmful insects while inviting natural predators. Another benefit that often goes unnoticed is its effect on rodents. Mice and voles tend to avoid areas with a strong mint scent. While it's not a complete solution, it contributes to a layered pest defense system. However, mint comes with one important challenge. It spreads aggressively. Its underground runners can quickly take over garden beds and compete with other plants. For that reason, the best approach is grow mint in containers. Place pots near crops like brassicas or tomatoes. Position containers along pathways or bed edges. This way, you gain all the pest-repelling benefits without losing control of your garden space. Mint isn't just a plant. It acts like a natural boundary line within your garden. 5. Rosemary. Rosemary functions like a permanent woody guard standing watch over your garden. Its needle-like leaves contain aromatic compounds such as camphor and cineole. These strong resinous oils create a scent profile that interferes with insects searching for specific host plants. Rosemary helps repel pests such as cabbage moths, carrot flies, bean beetles, certain flies, and mosquitoes. Cabbage moths rely on scent to locate crops like cabbage, kale, and broccoli. Rosemary's strong aroma masks those scents, making it harder for moths to identify suitable places to lay eggs. Carrot flies are another example. These pests lay eggs in the soil near carrot plants, and their larvae feed on the roots. Rosemary disrupts the chemical signals that guide them, reducing the likelihood of infestation. Bean beetles, which damage leaves and lay eggs on bean plants, are also less likely to settle in areas where rosemary is present. Because rosemary grows upright and develops a woody structure, it serves as both a functional and structural plant in the garden. Unlike softer herbs, it forms semi-permanent shrubs that define garden bed boundaries, act as aromatic barriers, provide some protection from wind, remain present year-round in warmer climates. It thrives in full sunlight and well-drained dry soil, making it ideal for the outer edges of garden beds, where watering is less frequent. This allows it to protect crops without competing heavily for moisture. When rosemary flowers, it attracts bees and other beneficial insects, further strengthening the garden's ecosystem. For best results, plant rosemary along the borders of your garden. Place it near cabbage family crops. Position it close to carrots and beans. Use it in the corners of raised beds. Rosemary is drought-tolerant, long-lasting, and continuously releases scent that confuses pests, making it a low-maintenance defense system that works season after season. 6. Chives. Chives may appear small, soft, and almost delicate, but from a chemical perspective, they are surprisingly powerful. As part of the allium family, chives contain sulfur-based compounds, the same sharp substances found in onions and garlic. These compounds are released into both the air and the surrounding soil, creating conditions that many pests prefer to avoid. Chives are known to help deter aphids, Japanese beetles, carrot rust flies, certain types of mites. Aphids are particularly sensitive to strong odors. The scent released by chives interferes with their ability to locate host plants such as tomatoes, lettuce, and roses. When aphid populations decrease, ant activity often declines as well, since ants rely on aphids for honeydew. Japanese beetles, which feed on leaves and flowers, are also less likely to settle in areas where strong allium scents are present. While chives alone won't completely eliminate a severe infestation, they can significantly reduce the likelihood of beetles establishing themselves. Carrot rust flies are another important pest affected by chives. These insects lay their eggs in the soil near carrot plants, where the larvae later feed on the roots. The sulfur-rich aroma released by chives disrupts the chemical cues these flies depend on, reducing egg-laying in nearby areas. Chives also play a role in supporting beneficial insects. Their distinctive purple, globe-shaped flowers are rich in nectar and attract predatory wasps, hoverflies, bees. Hoverfly larvae are highly effective predators of aphids. When chives are allowed to bloom, they essentially help recruit a natural pest control force into your garden. Another advantage that often goes unnoticed is that chives are perennial in many climates. Once established, they return year after year, gradually forming clumps that continue to function with very little maintenance. Effective placement includes around tomato plants, near carrots, beside roses, beneath fruit trees, along the edges of garden beds. Additionally, chive leaves can be harvested and used to create a mild natural spray. By steeping chopped leaves in water, you can produce a simple chive tea that can be applied as a light pest deterrent. Chives may be small in size, but they are highly effective, a quiet, long-term protector working both above and below the soil. 7. Nasturtiums. Nasturtiums don't just repel pests. They act as a deliberate sacrifice to protect your main crops. This is why they are considered one of the most effective trap crops available. Their tender, juicy leaves and stems are extremely attractive to many insects. To pests, nasturtiums act like a clear invitation, drawing them in and concentrating their activity on a single plant. And that's exactly the goal. While pests focus on nasturtiums, your vegetables remain largely untouched. Nasturtiums are particularly effective at attracting aphids, flea beetles, squash bugs, cabbage moth caterpillars, various beetles. Aphids in particular are strongly drawn to nasturtiums. They often cluster heavily on these plants, while nearby crops such as beans, peppers, and cucumbers remain relatively unaffected. Instead of dealing with aphids across your entire garden, they become concentrated in one location, making them easier to monitor and control. This helps protect crops like cucumbers, squash, zucchini beans, broccoli, cabbage nasturtiums also spread across the ground, forming a natural living mulch. This helps shade the soil, suppress weed growth, and retain moisture by reducing evaporation. But their role doesn't stop there. Nasturtiums also attract beneficial insects. Their bright orange, red, and yellow flowers bring in hoverflies, bees. Predatory wasps. Hoverfly larvae are highly effective aphid predators. This means nasturtiums not only draw pests in, but also attract the natural enemies that feed on those pests. Around a single plant, a small but effective ecosystem begins to form. To use nasturtiums effectively, plant them along the edges of garden beds. Place them between crops like cucumbers and squash. Allow them to trail over the sides of raised beds. Position them near cabbage family plants. It's important to monitor them regularly. If pest populations become too heavy, you can trim away infested sections or remove the plant entirely, eliminating a large portion of the pest population in one step. Nasturtiums also offer an added benefit. They are edible. Their leaves have a peppery flavor and their flowers are bright and slightly spicy, making them a unique addition to salads. They don't just protect your garden, they take the damage so your crops don't have to. 8. Garlic. Garlic functions like a built-in chemical defense system in plant form. Its effectiveness comes from sulfur-based compounds, especially aliquot, which are released through its leaves, roots, and even into the surrounding soil. These compounds create conditions that many pests and plant pathogens find hostile or unattractive. Garlic is known to help repel aphids, spider mites, Japanese beetles, thrips, certain caterpillars. Aphids and mites depend heavily on scent and chemical signals to identify suitable feeding locations. Garlic interferes with those signals, making nearby plants less appealing. Spider mites, which tend to thrive in hot and dry environments, are particularly sensitive to strong odors. Planting garlic around vulnerable crops can help reduce their population. Japanese beetles are also less likely to settle in areas where garlic is present. While garlic doesn't act as an impenetrable barrier, it lowers pest pressure and makes plants less attractive targets. Garlic also offers protection beyond insects. It contributes to disease resistance as well. Its natural compounds can help suppress certain fungal issues both in the soil and on plant surfaces, making it a subtle but effective ally against problems like mildew and some leaf diseases. Garlic pairs especially well with roses to help reduce aphid activity, fruit trees to lower overall pest pressure, lettuce and leafy greens, tomatoes and peppers, strawberries. It is particularly effective when planted in rings around trees or spaced between vegetable plants, acting like small protective markers throughout the garden. Another often overlooked benefit is its effect on rodents. Animals like voles and some burrowing pests tend to avoid the smell, making garlic a mild underground deterrent as well. And unlike many companion plants, garlic provides a harvest. It not only protects surrounding crops, but also produces edible bulbs. For an added boost, some gardeners create garlic sprays by soaking crushed garlic in water and applying it to plant leaves. However, even without this step, simply growing garlic nearby provides continuous, passive protection. Garlic may not stand out visually, but it is one of the most effective quiet defenders you can grow, working in the soil, in the air, and even against disease. 9. Thyme. Thyme might appear small and unassuming, but in the garden it operates like a constant, low-level security system. This herb releases aromatic oils that many insects find unpleasant or disorienting. When thyme is disturbed, whether by touch, wind, or heat, those oils become even more pronounced in the surrounding air. While the scent is appealing to us, it creates confusion for pests. Thyme is particularly effective against cabbage worms, whiteflies, certain moths that lay eggs on leafy crops. Cabbage moths rely on scent to locate brassica plants such as cabbage, broccoli, kale, and cauliflower. When thyme is planted nearby, its aroma interferes with that process. The moth struggles to identify suitable places to lay eggs, which leads to fewer caterpillars damaging your crops. Whiteflies also tend to avoid areas with strong aromatic signals. Thyme helps reduce their ability to settle and reproduce on nearby plants. But thyme's benefits go beyond scent. It also contributes through its growth pattern. Thyme grows low to the ground, spreading into dense mats that shade the soil, reduce moisture loss through evaporation, suppress weed growth, protect beneficial soil organisms. This ground-level coverage creates a more stable and favorable microclimate. Cooler, healthier soil helps plants remain resilient, and less stressed plants are naturally more resistant to pests. Ideal planting locations include around cabbage, kale, broccoli, and cauliflower, along the edges of garden beds, between stepping stones near pathways where it will be brushed, releasing more aroma. Another benefit is that thyme flowers attract pollinators and beneficial insects, including small parasitic wasps that help control pest populations. Because thyme is drought-tolerant and perennial in many climates, it becomes a long-term addition to your garden. Once established, it continues to provide protection year after year with minimal care. It is subtle, compact, and consistent, like a guard that never leaves its position. 10. Dill. If thyme forms part of the defensive barrier, dill acts more like aerial support, bringing reinforcements into your garden. Dill doesn't primarily repel pests directly. Instead, it strengthens the predator side of the ecosystem. Its umbrella-shaped flower clusters, known as umbels, are highly attractive to beneficial insects. These flowers provide nectar and pollen in a form that small predatory insects can easily access, especially those that cannot feed on larger, deeper flowers. Dill attracts parasitic wasps, hoverflies, ladybugs, lacewings. These insects are extremely effective at controlling pest populations. Parasitic wasps, in particular, are powerful biological control agents. They lay their eggs inside caterpillars and hornworms. The developing larvae feed internally, eventually eliminating the host. It's an intense process, but it is one of nature's most efficient pest control systems. When pests like tomato hornworms appear, dill helps attract the wasps that target them. Hoverfly larvae are also highly effective aphid predators. Adult hoverflies feed on nectar from dill flowers, then lay their eggs near aphid colonies. Once the larvae hatch, they begin feeding immediately. Because of this, dill helps control tomato hornworms, cabbage loopers, aphids, other soft-bodied pests. Dill works particularly well when planted near tomatoes, cabbage, and other brassicas. Lettuce, cucumbers. One important strategy is to allow some dill plants to flower. While many gardeners harvest dill early, it is during flowering that it becomes most valuable for pest control. Dill also adds vertical structure to the garden. Its tall, airy growth complements medium-height vegetables and low-growing herbs, creating layers that support a wider range of beneficial insects. Another advantage is its ability to self-seed. Once introduced, dill often returns year after year without additional effort, maintaining a consistent presence of beneficial insect support. In simple terms, thyme helps disrupt and repel pests close to the ground. Dill attracts the predators that eliminate those that remain. Together, they help create a balanced ecosystem, where pests may still exist, but never reach damaging levels.